They thought it was magic, a glowing miracle, a gift from science that could cure disease, energize the body, and light up the night. But what began as a scientific marvel would soon become one of the most horrifying workplace disasters in American history. This is the story of radium, the luminous killer, and the women who paid the ultimate price to expose its truth. In the early 20th century, radium was seen as a miracle. When Marie and Pierre Curie isolated the element in 1902, the world was mesmerized. It glowed. It healed cancer. It seemed like science's gift to mankind. That glow, ethereal, ghostly, captivated the public. Quack doctors and advertisers seized the moment. Soon, radium was everywhere in toothpaste, makeup, face creams, chocolate bars, even water. Radium-infused health tonics were sold in elegant glass bottles. If it glowed, it must be good for you, but there was a darker side. A side science hadn't yet grasped, or perhaps chose to ignore. By the time World War I began, radium's glow found another use: luminous paint for watch dials and military instruments. It was revolutionary, allowing soldiers to read their gear in the dead of night, without flashlights that might give away their position. To meet demand, factories sprang up across the United States. One of the largest was the United States Radium Corporation in Orange, New Jersey. The company needed precise workers to hand paint the tiny numbers on watch faces. Their ideal candidates? Young women with steady hands. Thousands of women were hired across the country. The work paid well, it was considered clean and respectable, and the glow-in-the-dark material added an air of glamour. The women, later dubbed the Radium Girls, often came to work wearing their nicest dresses, so the glowing dust would stick to the fabric. Some painted their nails and teeth with the paint before heading to dances after their shifts. The method they were trained in required precision. The paintbrushes needed a fine tip, so they were told to shape the brushes with their lips. Lip dip paint again and again throughout the day, each time ingesting tiny amounts of radioactive radium. Management reassured them radium was safe, healthy even. But the truth was very different. What the workers didn't know was that scientists and executives at the same companies were already taking precautions. Lab workers used masks, gloves, and lead screens. They knew the risks, but they didn't share that knowledge with the women painting the dials. Within a few years, the first signs of sickness began. Teeth loosened and fell out. Jaws ached. Some women suffered constant fatigue, infections that wouldn't heal, and mysterious bone fractures. X-rays revealed something horrifying: bones riddled with holes, crumbling from within. The most infamous case was Molly Maggia. Her teeth were the first to go. Then ulcers appeared. Her jaw disintegrated. Eventually, the infection spread through her bloodstream. She died at just 24 years old. The official cause of death? Syphilis, a misdiagnosis that protected the company's reputation but silenced the truth. By the mid-1920s, dozens of women were experiencing the same symptoms, but the company denied any connection. Executives dismissed the illnesses, hired doctors to refute the link, and used their legal power to stall lawsuits. Publicly, they claimed the paint was safe. Privately, they altered reports and suppressed findings that said otherwise. But one woman refused to stay silent. Grace Fryer, once a dial painter, now a bank clerk, was one of the few who understood what had happened. Her spine was crumbling. She wore a steel brace to stand upright. It took her 2 years to find a lawyer willing to take on the United States Radium Corporation. Eventually, she found Raymond Barry, a young attorney who agreed to represent her. 4 other former painters joined her: Edna Hussman, Catherine Shobe, and sisters Quinta MacDonald and Albina Larice. Together, they became known as the Living Dead Women because they were fighting not only for justice, but against time. The trial was brutal. The company delayed and deflected. Meanwhile, a 30-year-old physicist named Elizabeth Hughes measured radiation in the women's breath using an electroscope. The results were staggering. Their bodies were so contaminated, their exhaled breath registered as radioactive. News of the trial made headlines across the country. Public sentiment shifted. For the first time, the horrific consequences of unchecked radiation exposure were undeniable. Under immense pressure, the company agreed to settle. The women received compensation for medical expenses and a modest annual pension, but by then it was clear most would not survive long enough to benefit. Still, their battle wasn't in vain. Their suffering ignited a firestorm of reform. Workers across industries began demanding better safety. For the first time, the idea that an employer should be held legally responsible for the safety of its employees took root. What was once seen as radical soon became law. The case of the Radium Girls directly influenced the establishment of stronger labor protections and eventually contributed to the creation of agencies like OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Beyond the courtroom, their legacy transformed science itself. Their bones, still radioactive decades later, were studied to understand the long-term effects of radiation on the human body. They became silent witnesses in a new era of nuclear caution, saving lives even in death. By 1935, radium had been banned from consumer products. It remained in limited industrial use into the 1970s, always handled with strict safety measures. Today, radium is no longer seen as miraculous, but the Radium Girls are. They were ordinary women, daughters, sisters, friends, but they left behind a legacy far greater than the paint they once brushed onto tiny dials. Their glow did not fade. It lit the way for generations to come. The story of the Radium Girls isn't just history, it's a warning, a reminder of how far some will go for profit and how much others have to suffer for the truth to be heard. These women weren't scientists or activists, they were workers, trying to survive. But in standing up to the companies that poisoned them, they left a legacy that still protects workers today. Their suffering changed labor laws and corporate accountability forever. If this story moved you, taught you something new, or made you think twice about the cost of progress, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and sharing it. Stories like this deserve to be remembered, and we're just getting started.